What if happiness in the Middle Ages was not joy, not success, not pleasure, but simply the quiet feeling of nothing being wrong? If you are listening at night, tell me where you are and what time it is. Welcome to Dreamy Old Stories, where we tell slow and gentle tales from history, stories that calm your mind and help you fall asleep. The night settles softly over quiet fields, and the world grows gentle and still. There is no rush here, no urgency, only the slow turning of time as it is always turned. You may imagine a distant village resting beneath a wide and patient sky, where small lights flicker behind wooden shutters and the air carries the faint scent of earth and smoke. Nothing demands attention, nothing needs to be solved. History, tonight, will simply drift by, slow and quiet, like a calm river in the dark. In the Middle Ages, happiness was not a bright or shining thing. It did not sparkle or burst into laughter. It moved quietly, often unnoticed, woven into the ordinary rhythm of daily life. People did not chase happiness as a distant dream. Instead, they found small comforts in familiar patterns, in simple routines repeated day after day, season after season. The world was uncertain, yet life continued. Steady and patient, morning would come gently, long before the sun fully rose. A faint grey light would spread across the land, touching rooftops, fields, and narrow paths. A farmer might step outside, feeling the cool air, listening to the soft stirring of animals waking in their stalls. There was no grand expectation of joy, only a quiet acceptance of the day ahead. And yet, within that acceptance, a subtle form of contentment could exist. Happiness, for many, was the absence of trouble, a calm day without illness, a harvest that did not fail, a roof that did not leak when the rain began to fall. These were not dramatic victories, but they mattered deeply. When life is uncertain, even small stability feels meaningful. And so happiness often appeared in modest forms, gentle and easy to miss. In a small medieval home, the fire might burn low and steady. The sound of bread baking would fill the air, warm and familiar. A wooden table, worn by years of use, would hold simple food shared quietly among family members. There might be little conversation, only the soft presence of togetherness. This, too, could be a kind of happiness, though no one would name it so directly. Medieval people did not always speak of happiness in the way we do now. The word itself often carried a different meaning, closer to fortune or blessing than to emotion. To be happy was sometimes to be favored by fate, to be safe within the order of the world, to live without disruption. A peaceful day, repeating gently into another, could feel like a quiet gift. Outside, beyond the village, the land stretched wide and patient. Fields rested in winter silence or swayed slowly beneath the summer sun. Time moved with the seasons, and people moved with time. There was comfort in this rhythm, in knowing what would come next, in waking to a world that behaved as expected. Predictability, though simple, offered a calm sense of belonging. In the marketplace, life unfolded in small and familiar motions. A merchant arranged goods with quiet care. A baker brushed flour from his hands. A child watched the world with steady curiosity. No one hurried. Even the passing hours seemed to walk rather than run. Within these ordinary scenes, moments of quiet satisfaction could arise. Soft and fleeting, yet real. Faith, too, shapes the idea of happiness. Many believed true peace did not fully belong to this world, but rested somewhere beyond it, waiting patiently. Earthly life was often seen as temporary, sometimes difficult, yet meaningful in its own quiet way. Hope existed, not loud or urgent, but steady and calm, like a distant light that did not flicker. Sometimes happiness was simply rest, the end of a long day. The gentle silence after work was done, the body growing still, the mind drifting softly. Worries fading into the quiet night. No celebration, no announcement, only a peaceful pause. And in that pause, a quiet sense of enough. Even during uncertain times, life continued to offer small, steady comforts. The warmth of sunlight through a narrow window, the sound of rain falling safely outside, the familiar path walked countless times before. These moments did not demand attention, yet they shaped the quiet landscape of medieval life. And so happiness in the Middle Ages was not loud, not bright, not extraordinary. It was gentle, subtle, and often hidden within the ordinary flow of days. It did not need to be chased, only noticed, quietly, as life moved forward at its own unhurried pace. The night deepens, the village rests, and history continues its slow and peaceful drift. The quiet of the night slowly gives way to another soft beginning. A pale light spreads across the horizon, not in a hurry, not seeking attention, simply arriving as it always has. In the Middle Ages, days often began like this, without announcement, without excitement, only this steady return of routine. And within that routine, small threads of quiet contentment continued to form, almost unnoticed, almost unnamed. For many people, happiness was closely tied to belonging, to belong to a family, to a village, to a shared rhythm of life. A person rarely stood alone. Lives were woven together, not tightly, not dramatically, but in gentle and familiar ways. The same faces appeared each day, the same paths were walked, the same bells rang across fields and rooftops, marking the slow passing of hours. Familiarity itself could feel comforting, like a soft and steady presence that never fully disappeared. Work, though often tiring, carried its own quiet order. A farmer moving slowly behind a wooden plough, hands guiding the soil, season after season. The work did not promise excitement, but it offered rhythm. And rhythm, repeated long enough, can become a form of calm. The body learned what to do. The mind wandered gently. The world felt steady, at least for a while. Happiness was rarely about change. It was often about continuity. A day that resembled yesterday. A season that followed the familiar pattern of the last. The Middle Ages did not move quickly, and people did not expect life to transform suddenly. Instead, they found comfort in what remained the same. The same sunrise over the fields, the same quiet evenings near the fire, the same voices, steady and known. In small homes built of wood and stone, warmth gathered slowly. A fire crackled, not loudly, but softly enough to fill the room with a gentle presence. Shadows moved along the walls, shifting with the flicker of flame. Someone might mend clothing in silence. Someone else might simply sit, resting after a long day. Words were not always necessary. Togetherness did not require sound. And within that stillness, a quiet form of peace could exist. Festivals arrived. From time to time, soft interruptions in the steady flow of ordinary days. Bells rang a little longer. Tables held slightly more food than usual. Laughter, though never wild, rose gently into the air. These moments did not erase hardship, but they offered warmth, a brief widening of the heart. And then, as quietly as they came, they passed, leaving behind the familiar calm once more. Nature, too, shaped the feeling of happiness. A clear sky after many days of rain, the slow return of green across the land, the quiet hum of insects in warm summer fields. These were small things, easily overlooked, yet deeply felt. When life depended on the land, even the simplest signs of balance could bring quiet relief. And relief, in uncertain times, often felt close to happiness. Many people understood happiness not as a constant state, but as a gentle moment that appeared and faded without warning. It could be found in the taste of warm bread, in the sound of distant church bells, in the comfort of a familiar path beneath tired feet. It did not demand attention, it did not announce itself. It simply arrived, stayed briefly, and moved on. Time, in those days, moved differently. Without clocks marking every second, hours unfolded slowly, measured by light and shadow, by work and rest. There was space for stillness, space for quiet noticing, and within that spaciousness, the mind could settle, even if only for a short while. A settled mind, free from immediate worry, was perhaps one of the closest forms of happiness people knew. Yet happiness was never guaranteed. Illness could arrive without warning. Storms could damage crops. Winters could grow long and heavy. But even within uncertainty, life continued to offer small, steady comforts. A neighbor sharing food. A familiar prayer whispered softly. The warmth of wool against cold skin. These were not grand joys, yet they mattered. As evening returned once more, the village slowed again into silence. Smoke rose gently from chimneys. Footsteps faded along narrow paths. The world did not rush forward. It simply rested, as it had rested countless nights before. And somewhere within that quiet, within that steady rhythm of ordinary life, the soft and subtle shape of happiness continued to exist. Patient and almost unseen, waiting gently within the flow of time. Night settles again, slowly and without effort, as if the world remembers how to grow quiet on its own. The air cools. The sounds of the day soften and fade. In small homes, doors close gently, and the glow of firelight becomes the center of a calm and simple world. Nothing remarkable happens, yet something steady continues, something familiar that people of the Middle Ages knew well, even if they never spoke of it directly. Happiness, for many, was not a feeling that arrived suddenly. It was something that rested quietly beneath ordinary moments. A woman might sit beside a small window, watching the last light fade from the sky. She does not search for joy. She does not name what she feels. Yet there is a calm presence within her, a gentle sense that, for now, everything is as it should be. This quiet acceptance often stood where happiness lived. In the darkness outside, the village remains still. A dog shifts in sleep. Wind moves softly across rooftops. Somewhere far away, an owl calls once and then becomes silent again. These small sounds do not disturb the night. They belong to it. And in this steady, unbroken calm, people found a quiet reassurance, a feeling that the world continued in its natural order. During the Middle Ages, many believed life was guided by a greater design, something slow and distant yet constant. This belief often brought comfort. Hardship existed, yes, but so did patience. If today was difficult, tomorrow might be quieter. If winter felt long, spring would return, as it always had. Trust in this slow turning of time allowed people to rest within uncertainty, and sometimes, within that trust, they felt a gentle peace. Inside a modest home, a small family might gather near the fading warmth of the fire. No celebration, no grand words, only presence. Someone adjusts a wooden stool. Someone else leans back, eyes half closed, listening to the soft crackle of burning wood. The rhythm of breath slows, the body rests. And in this simple stillness, something soft appears, a quiet sense of enough, fragile yet real. Happiness could also be found in small completions. A task finished before nightfall, a field prepared for the coming season, bread baked and set aside for tomorrow. These were not moments of excitement, but of quiet closure, gentle endings that allowed the mind to settle. When work paused, even briefly, the world felt calm, and calm often felt close to happiness. Sometimes happiness was shared, though rarely spoken. A glance exchanged across a table, a brief smile, small and unforced. The presence of another human being, steady and familiar, was often enough. Words were not always needed. Silence, shared between people who understood each other, could carry its own quiet warmth. Seasons continued their slow and patient journey. Autumn leaves fell softly onto empty paths. Frost formed delicate patterns on window edges. Snow covered the land in a deep and peaceful silence. Each season carried its own quiet beauty, and though life was not easy, these steady changes reminded people that time moved forward, gently and without hurry. Even in hardship, small comforts endured. The warmth of a cloak in cold wind, the steady flame of a candle in darkness, the quiet sound of prayer whispered before sleep. These moments did not erase struggle, yet they softened it. And in that softening, a fragile sense of peace could exist. The Middle Ages did not promise constant happiness, and few expected it. Instead, life offered brief and gentle moments of calm, scattered quietly across ordinary days. Happiness was not something to hold tightly, but something to notice softly when it appeared, and to remember without urgency when it passed. As night deepens further, the village rests once more beneath a wide and silent sky. Nothing demands attention, nothing needs to be solved. The world simply continues, slow and steady, as it always has. And within that quiet continuation, within the gentle rhythm of ordinary life, the soft and subtle presence of happiness remains, patient and calm, drifting quietly forward into another peaceful night. Morning returns quietly, almost unnoticed, as a pale grey light spreads slowly across the land. The village does not wake all at once. One small sound follows another. A wooden door opens. A rooster calls into the cool air. Somewhere, soft footsteps press against the earth. Life begins again, not with excitement, but with steady and familiar movement. The rhythm continues, just as it did yesterday and many years before. In the Middle Ages, Happiness often lived inside this quiet repetition. People did not search far for it. They did not expect it to arrive suddenly. Instead, it rested within the gentle order of daily life. A person who woke to the same roof, the same field, the same path beneath their feet could feel a subtle comfort. The world, though uncertain, still held familiar shapes. A farmer steps into the field as the first light grows stronger. The soil is cool and slightly damp. Nothing speaks, yet the land feels present, calm and steady. The work begins slowly. Hands move with memory rather than thought. The body knows this motion well, and in this simple, repeated action, the mind sometimes grows quiet. A quiet mind, even for a short while, could feel like a small form of peace. Happiness was often tied to enough. Enough food to last the week. Enough warmth to pass the cold night. Enough strength to finish the day. More was rarely expected. Life moved close to necessity, and when necessity was met, a soft sense of balance appeared. This balance did not shine brightly, but it settled gently within the heart. Across the village, other lives unfold in the same slow rhythm. A woman draws water from a well, the rope moving steadily through her hands. The bucket rises, heavy but manageable. Nearby, a child watches quietly, saying nothing, simply observing the small motion of daily life. These moments do not seem important, yet they form the quiet structure of existence. And sometimes, within that structure, calm contentment can be found. Faith remained a quiet companion in many lives. Bells from a distant church move softly through the morning air. Not loud, not urgent, just present. Some pause in their work, some continue, but the sound belongs to everyone. It reminds them of something larger, something slow and steady beyond the noise of daily survival. For many, this gentle reminder brought a quiet reassurance, a sense that life, with all its uncertainty, still held meaning. Seasons shaped the feeling of happiness in subtle ways. Spring carried the quiet hope of growth. Summer brought long days and steady labor. Autumn offered completion and preparation. Winter invited stillness and endurance. No season promised comfort, yet each carried familiar signs. Familiarity itself often felt calming, like walking a known path in dim light. Food, though simple, carried quiet importance. A bowl of warm porridge in the morning, bread shared without words, a small piece of cheese saved for later. These were not luxuries, yet they grounded the day in something real and steady. Hunger could disturb the mind, but when it was eased, even briefly, the world felt softer, more manageable. Time passed without strict measure. There were no ticking clocks, no constant reminders of speed. Light moved across the sky. Shadows shifted slowly on the ground. Work began, work paused, work ended. Within this unhurried flow, the mind often wandered gently, noticing small details. The sound of wind through dry grass, the warmth of sunlight resting on stone, the faint smell of smoke and cool air. These quiet sensations, though simple, formed the texture of daily life. Happiness, when it appeared, was rarely loud. It did not demand recognition. It arrived quietly, often disguised as ordinary calm. A moment without fear, a short rest beneath a tree, the steady breathing of animals in a nearby stall. These moments passed quickly, yet they left behind a soft trace, something gentle and grounding. Not every day was easy. There were worries that moved quietly beneath the surface. Crops could fail, illness could spread, winters could feel long and heavy. Yet even within uncertainty, small comforts remained. A neighbor offering help, a familiar voice in the evening. The simple act of continuing forward, one quiet day after another. As the sun rises higher, the village becomes fully awake, though never hurried. Smoke rises in thin lines from chimneys. Footsteps cross narrow paths. Soft voices drift through. Open air. The world does not rush forward. It moves steadily, patiently, as it always has. And within this steady movement, the quiet shape of happiness continues to exist. Subtle and calm, resting gently inside the ordinary flow of medieval life. The day moves forward without haste. Light rests gently across the fields, touching rooftops and narrow paths, warming stone and wood with quiet patience. Nothing changes quickly. Nothing demands attention. The village continues its slow and familiar motion, and within that motion, small and quiet forms of contentment remain, often unnoticed, yet quietly present. In the Middle Ages, people lived close to the natural rhythm of daylight. As the sun climbed higher, work continued in steady silence. A farmer pauses briefly, leaning on a wooden handle, not from exhaustion alone, but from habit. Rest, even short, belonged naturally within the day. During these pauses, the mind could drift, unburdened for a moment, and in that gentle drifting, a soft sense of calm could appear. Happiness was often linked to simple stability, a roof that held firm, a path that remained clear, a season that followed its expected course. These were not dramatic blessings, but they carried quiet meaning. When life feels uncertain, small signs of order bring comfort. And comfort, steady and familiar, often stood close to happiness. In the shade of a tree, two villagers exchange few words. Their conversation is slow, soft, and unhurried. Silence fills the spaces between sentences, not empty, but peaceful. People did not always seek constant sound. Stillness itself held a quiet value. Within shared silence, a gentle warmth could grow, calm and steady. Needing no explanation, children moved through the village with quiet curiosity. Their laughter was soft, never lasting long, soon blending again into the gentle hum of daily life. Even small joys, brief and passing, left a subtle brightness in the air. These moments did not change the world, yet they softened it. The marketplace carried its own quiet rhythm. A merchant arranges cloth with careful hands. A basket of apples rests beside a wooden stall. Coins change hands slowly, with no rush. No urgency. The sound of footsteps on packed earth blends with low voices and distant movement. Nothing dramatic unfolds. Yet life continues in its calm and steady way. Food prepared for the midday meal fills the air with familiar scents. A pot warms slowly over a small fire. Someone stirs without hurry. Hunger will be eased, and for a short while, the body will rest. These simple routines, repeated countless times, created a sense of continuity, and within continuity, the mind often found peace. Faith remained quietly present through the day. A passing bell, a whispered prayer, a moment of stillness before continuing work. For many, Happiness was not only earthly, but connected to something beyond sight, something steady and patient. Belief did not remove hardship, but it often softened the weight of uncertainty, allowing people to rest within a quiet sense of trust. Nature continued its gentle influence. A soft breeze moved across tall grass. Clouds drifted slowly, unhurried, across a pale sky. Birds crossed overhead, their movement calm and distant. These quiet scenes required nothing, yet they offered a subtle reminder that life flowed steadily, beyond worry and beyond haste. Happiness, when it appeared, rarely stayed long. It moved softly through small moments, the warmth of sunlight on tired hands, the comfort of sitting after long work, the simple feeling that, for now, nothing is wrong. These were not grand emotions, but quiet spaces where the heart could rest. Not every moment was peaceful. There were small frustrations, quiet concerns, unspoken worries, yet life continued to move gently forward. People learned to live with an uncertainty, to notice calm when it appeared, to accept that happiness was not constant, but scattered softly across the ordinary flow of days. As afternoon slowly begins to soften toward evening, the light grows warmer, more gentle. Shadows lengthen across the ground. Work begins to slow, though it never fully stops. The village remains calm, steady, unchanged in its quiet rhythm. And within that steady rhythm, the subtle presence of happiness continues to drift, quiet and patient, woven into the simple and familiar patterns of medieval life. Evening approaches slowly, as if the day itself is growing quiet and thoughtful. The light softens across the land, turning pale gold before gently fading. Work begins to ease. Tools are set aside. Footsteps turn toward home along familiar paths worn smooth by countless days before. Nothing feels rushed. The world simply shifts, calm and steady. War dress in the Middle Ages. Evening often carried a quiet sense of completion. Not triumph, not celebration, but a gentle closing of effort. A farmer might pause at the edge of a field, looking across rows of earth shaped by the day's work. There is no loud feeling of success, only a quiet recognition that something small has been done, and that is enough for now. Within this simple acceptance, a soft calm could grow. Smoke rises slowly from low chimneys as small fires are lit again. The scent of burning wood moves gently through cool air. Inside modest homes, warm light flickers against rough walls. Shadows shift quietly, stretching and shrinking as flames move. The world beyond grows darker, but inside, a small and steady warmth remains. And in that warmth, people often felt a quiet comfort. Something close to peace. Happiness was sometimes found in the presence of others, not through words, but through simple nearness. A family gathered near a table, a shared meal, plain and familiar. Hands move slowly, passing bread, lifting bowls, resting again. Conversation, if it comes, is soft and brief. Silence returns easily. This quiet togetherness, repeated night after night, formed a gentle foundation beneath daily life. Outside, the village settles. Animals grow still in their stalls. A distant dog barks once, then stops. The wind moves lightly through trees, carrying the soft sound of leaves brushing against one another. These small sounds belong to the evening. They do not disturb the calm, Instead, they deepen it, reminding everyone that the world continues its steady rhythm. For many, happiness was not something to hold tightly. It was something to notice when it appeared, often in simple and passing forms. The warmth of a fire on cold hands, the quiet satisfaction of food prepared and eaten, the body resting after long labor. These moments were small, yet meaningful, offering brief spaces where worry loosened its hold. Faith often returned gently at night, a whispered prayer before sleep, a quiet moment of reflection. Many believed true and lasting happiness rested beyond this life, somewhere calm and distant, waiting patiently. This belief did not erase hardship, but it offered a quiet reassurance, a sense that life, though uncertain, moved within a larger and steady design. Seasons continued their slow turning, shaping evenings in subtle ways. In summer, the air remained warm long after sunset, carrying soft sounds of distant life. In winter, darkness arrived early, deep and silent, wrapping the village in stillness. Each season brought its own quiet atmosphere, and people adjusted gently, finding comfort in familiar patterns. Sometimes happiness appeared in the smallest details: a candle burning steadily without flicker, a cloak wrapped warmly against cool air, the faint glow of moonlight touching a narrow path outside. These were not grand moments, yet they carried a quiet beauty, subtle and calm, woven into the ordinary fabric of life. As night deepens, movement fades almost completely. Doors close, voices disappear. Only the soft crackle of fading fire and the steady rhythm of breathing remain inside small homes. The world grows still, not empty, but resting. And in this resting, people often felt a gentle sense of safety. Fragile yet real. The Middle Ages did not promise constant happiness. Instead, life offered quiet intervals of calm, scattered gently through ordinary days and simple nights. Happiness was rarely spoken, rarely celebrated, yet quietly present. In moments of rest, warmth, and belonging. It moved softly, like a faint light in darkness, never bright, never loud, but steady enough to be felt. And so the village sleeps beneath a wide and silent sky. Nothing demands attention. Nothing needs to be solved. Time continues its slow and patient journey, carrying with it the quiet, subtle presence of happiness, drifting gently forward into another calm and peaceful night. Dawn returns with a soft grey breath, touching the edges of roofs and the quiet curve of distant fields. The village stirs gently, as if waking from a long and patient dream. No one rushes. No voice calls loudly into the morning. Light simply grows, and with it, the slow movement of another day begins. In this steady return, people of the Middle Ages often found a calm familiarity, something simple yet quietly grounding. A narrow path stretches between small homes and open land, worn smooth by many years of footsteps. Someone walks along it now, unhurried, carrying a wooden bucket that sways slightly with each step. The sound is soft, almost rhythmic. Nothing dramatic happens, yet the motion itself feels steady and real. In such small and repeated acts, the mind sometimes settles, and within that settling, a gentle form of peace may appear. Happiness, in those times, was often quiet and closely tied to order. Not a grand order, not perfect, but enough to feel stable. A door that opens and closes as expected. A well that still gives water. A sky that remains clear for another morning. These small certainties did not promise joy, yet they allowed life to continue calmly, and calm was often close to happiness. Near the edge of the village, a baker begins the slow work of the day. Hands move through flour, steady and practiced. The scent of rising bread gradually fills the cool air, warm and familiar. This simple process, repeated countless times, carries no excitement, yet it brings a quiet satisfaction. To create something useful, something needed, often gave people a gentle sense of purpose. And purpose, even small, could feel comforting. Across the fields, a farmer pauses, looking toward the horizon where light slowly grows stronger. The land stretches wide and patient, unchanged by yesterday's worries or tomorrow's hopes. The farmer does not speak, does not search for meaning. He simply stands, breathing slowly, present within the stillness of morning. In such quiet moments, the mind often softens, and a fragile calm can be felt. Children begin to appear, moving slowly through the waking village. Their voices are soft, their steps light. They watch the world with simple curiosity, noticing small things adults often overlook. A bird resting on a fence, a puddle reflecting pale sky, the slow drift of smoke from a distant chimney. These tiny observations do not shape history, yet they fill the quiet spaces of daily life with gentle awareness. Faith continues its subtle presence, never loud, never forceful. The distant sound of a bell moves softly through the air, marking time in a slow and patient way. Some pause in their movement, some do not, yet the sound belongs to everyone. For many, it carried a quiet reassurance, a reminder that life moved within something steady and enduring. Even when daily existence felt uncertain, happiness was rarely separate from ordinary life. It was not something to search for far away. Instead, it appeared within simple balance, a body strong enough to work, a morning without illness, a small fire ready to be lit when evening returned. These were modest conditions, yet they allowed the day to unfold gently, and in that gentle unfolding, calm contentment could exist. Time, without clocks, moved slowly and naturally. Light shifted across stone walls. Shadows stretched and softened. The sun rose higher, not hurried, not delayed, simply continuing its quiet journey. People followed this movement, working when light allowed, resting when darkness returned. Within this natural rhythm, the mind often wandered softly, noticing without urgency. Even in silence, life felt full. The sound of wind brushing tall grass, the distant lowing of cattle, the faint creak of wood beneath careful steps. These gentle sounds formed a quiet background to existence, never overwhelming, never absent. And sometimes, within this quiet background, people felt a subtle sense of belonging, as if they were part of something steady and enduring. Happiness did not always stay. It appeared and faded like morning mist, soft and temporary. Yet its brief presence mattered. A calm breath, a warm piece of bread, a moment without worry. These were small, almost invisible, yet deeply human experiences, shaping life in quiet and lasting ways. As the sun continues its slow rise, the village grows gently awake. Movement increases, though never hurried. Smoke lifts lightly into the air. Footsteps cross familiar ground. Another ordinary day begins, steady and patient, and within that steady beginning, the quiet and subtle presence of happiness continues. Soft and calm, resting gently inside the flow of medieval life, midday arrives quietly, without announcement, as the sun rests higher above the fields and rooftops. Light spreads evenly across stone, soil, and wood, touching everything with a gentle warmth. The village continues its slow and steady rhythm. Nothing feels hurried, nothing feels loud. Life simply moves forward, one small motion at a time, just as it has for many years. Work continues in quiet repetition. Hands move through familiar tasks, guided by memory rather than thought. A farmer bends slowly to clear stones from the soil. A spinner turns wool into thread with calm and patient motion. A carpenter shapes wood with measured care, each movement steady and deliberate. These actions do not bring excitement, yet they bring rhythm. And rhythm, repeated long enough, often becomes a quiet form of peace. Happiness, for many, was not found in change, but in continuity. A day that follows the pattern of the last. A task completed as it was yesterday. The same sky above, the same ground below. In this steady sameness, people felt a subtle comfort, as if life, though uncertain, remained gently balanced. This balance, quiet and fragile, was often enough. The air carries soft and simple sounds. The brushing of wind through tall grass. The distant creak of a wooden cart moving slowly along a narrow path. The quiet murmur of voices in the marketplace, low and unhurried. These sounds do not demand attention. They simply exist, forming the gentle background of daily life. At the center of the village, the midday meal is prepared slowly. A pot warms over a small fire. Someone stirs without hurry. Bread is broken and shared. Hunger fades for a while, and with it, a small tension leaves the body. This simple act of eating, repeated day after day, created a quiet sense of grounding. When the body is calm, the mind often follows. In shaded corners, brief moments of rest appear. A worker sits beneath a tree, eyes half closed, listening to the soft movement of leaves above. No words are spoken, no thoughts are forced. The world continues without demand. Within this stillness, a gentle calm can settle, soft and almost unnoticed. Yet real dark faith remains quietly present, woven into the ordinary flow of ours. A silent prayer whispered without sound, a small gesture of gratitude before continuing work. For many, happiness was not only tied to this life, but connected to something distant and steady beyond it. This quiet belief did not remove hardship, but it softened uncertainty, allowing people to rest within a sense of trust. Nature moves gently alongside human life. Clouds drift slowly across a pale sky. A bird circles once before disappearing beyond. Distant trees. The warmth of sunlight rests briefly on tired hands. These simple details, though small, shape the atmosphere of the day. And within that atmosphere, the mind sometimes finds a quiet place to settle. Happiness, when it appeared, was subtle. It did not arrive loudly. It did not stay long. A moment of rest, a calm breath. The quiet feeling that nothing is wrong, at least for now. These small spaces of ease were scattered gently through ordinary hours. offering brief but meaningful comfort. Not every moment held calm. There were small worries, quiet uncertainties, thoughts that moved slowly beneath the surface. Yet life continued. People worked, rested, shared, and moved forward together. Within this steady continuation, even fragile calm could feel meaningful. As the afternoon begins its slow descent toward evening, the light softens slightly, growing warmer and more gentle. Shadows stretch quietly across the ground. Work continues, though movement becomes slower, softer, more measured. The village remains steady, unchanged in its calm rhythm. And within that calm, the quiet presence of happiness drifts softly, subtle, and patient, woven into the simple flow of medieval life. Evening returns in a slow and gentle way, as if the day itself is learning how to rest. The light grows softer across the fields and rooftops, turning warm before quietly fading. Movements across the village begin to slow. Tools are placed down. Doors open and close with familiar sounds. No one rushes. The world simply settles, steady and calm, into another quiet ending. A narrow path carries tired footsteps back toward small homes. The ground feels known beneath each step, shaped by many years of walking. There is comfort in this familiarity, in knowing where the path leads without needing to think. For many in the Middle Ages, happiness often lived inside such quiet certainty. Small and unnoticed, yet deeply present. Inside a modest home, a small fire begins to glow again. The first sparks catch slowly, growing into a steady and gentle warmth. The light flickers against rough walls, moving softly like a calm breath. Someone sits nearby, hands resting, eyes quiet. Nothing dramatic happens, yet the simple warmth of fire against cool air brings a quiet sense of ease. Something close to peace. The evening meal is simple, shared without urgency. Bread is broken. A wooden bowl passes from hand to hand. The sounds are soft and familiar. Conversation, if it appears, is quiet and brief. Silence returns, easily comfortable and unforced. Within this shared stillness, people often felt a subtle sense of belonging. And belonging, even quiet, could feel like happiness. Outside, the village grows quieter with each passing moment. Animals settle in their stalls. A distant bell sounds once, then fades into the air. The wind moves gently through trees, carrying the faint rustle of leaves. These small sounds do not disturb the night. They belong to it, shaping the calm and steady atmosphere of evening. Happiness, for many, was not a bright emotion. It was a quiet state, often resting beneath ordinary moments. The feeling of being warm while the night grows cool outside. The comfort of rest after long work. The simple presence of others nearby, steady and familiar. These small conditions did not change the world, yet they softened life in gentle ways. Faith often returned softly as darkness deepened. A whispered prayer, a quiet moment of reflection. Many believed that true and lasting happiness lay beyond this life, somewhere, calm and distant, waiting patiently. This belief did not remove struggle, but it offered reassurance, allowing the heart to rest within a sense of quiet trust. Seasons continued their slow turning, shaping evenings in subtle ways. In autumn, cool air carried the scent of dry leaves. In winter, darkness arrived early, wrapping the village in deep stillness. In summer, soft warmth lingered long after sunset. Each season brought familiar patterns, and within those patterns, people found quiet comfort, steady and grounding. Sometimes happiness appeared in the smallest details. A candle burning without flicker, the gentle weight of a wool cloak against cool skin, the faint glow of moonlight touching a silent path. These were simple things, easily overlooked, yet quietly meaningful, forming part of the calm rhythm of daily life. As night deepens further, movement fades almost completely. Doors close, voices disappear. Only the soft crackle of fire and the steady rhythm of breathing remain inside small homes. The world grows still, not empty, but resting. And in this deep quiet, many felt a fragile sense of safety, a calm pause within the uncertainty of life. The Middle Ages did not promise constant happiness, and few expected it. Instead, life offered small and gentle moments of calm, scattered across ordinary days and quiet nights. Happiness was not something to chase, but something to notice softly when it appeared, and to remember without urgency when it passed. The village sleeps beneath a wide and silent sky. Nothing demands attention. Nothing needs to be solved. Time continues its slow and patient movement, carrying with it the quiet presence of countless small lives. And within that steady flow, the soft and subtle feeling of happiness continues to drift, calm and quiet, into another peaceful night. Before the first color of dawn appears, the world rests in a deep and gentle silence. The sky is wide and dark, holding the last quiet moments of night. Nothing moves quickly. Nothing asks for attention. The village sleeps, wrapped in stillness, as if time itself has paused for a calm and patient breath. Slowly, without sound, the faintest grey begins to touch the horizon, and another day prepares to begin. A single window glows softly where a small flame has been lit. Inside, someone wakes without hurry, listening to the quiet around them. The air feels cool and steady. There is no sudden thought, no urgent feeling, only the quiet awareness of another ordinary morning. In the Middle Ages, mornings often arrived like this, calm and familiar, carrying no promise of excitement, only the steady continuation of life. As light slowly grows, the shapes of the village begin to return. Roofs emerge from shadow. Narrow paths become visible again. A thin line of smoke rises gently from a chimney, drifting upward into the pale sky. These small signs of waking do not feel dramatic. They feel natural, expected, part of a rhythm, repeated countless times before, and within this repetition, many found a quiet comfort, subtle yet steady. Happiness was often shaped by simple certainty. The certainty that morning would return, the certainty that the land would still be there beneath their feet, the certainty that familiar faces would appear again in the quiet flow of the day. These were not grand assurances, yet they offered a calm sense of belonging, and belonging often brought a gentle form of peace. Near the edge of the village, a figure walks slowly toward the well, the bucket in hand moving softly with each step. The ground is cool. The air carries a faint stillness. Nothing interrupts the moment. Water rises slowly from the deep, clear and steady, just as it did yesterday and the day before. Such small and dependable motions shaped daily life, and within the The mind often found quiet reassurance. A faint sound of movement comes from a nearby field. A farmer steps into the morning light, pausing briefly, not from weariness, but from habit. The land stretches wide and silent, patient and unchanged. Work will begin soon, but for a moment there is stillness. In that stillness, the breath slows. The mind settles, and a quiet calm appears. Soft and unspoken, in the Middle Ages, happiness rarely stood apart from ordinary life. It was not something distant or rare. Instead, it lived within small balances, enough warmth to ease the chill, enough food to begin the day, enough strength to continue forward. These modest conditions did not bring excitement, but they allowed life to unfold gently. And within that gentle unfolding, quiet contentment could exist. Children begin to stir, moving slowly into the soft morning light. Their voices are quiet, their steps light. They notice small things, simple details that fill the world with gentle presence. A bird perched quietly on a fence, the faint reflection of sky in a puddle, the slow movement of smoke rising into the air. These small observations do not change history, yet they shape the calm texture of daily life. Faith remains, as always, a quiet companion. The distant sound of a bell moves softly through the morning, steady and unhurried. Some pause, some continue their tasks, yet the sound belongs to all, marking time in a gentle and patient way. For many, it offered reassurance, a sense that life moved within a steady design. Even when the path felt uncertain, time continues without hurry. Light spreads across stone walls. Shadows retreat slowly. The sun rises higher, calm and steady, as it has for countless mornings before. People follow this movement naturally, working when light allows, resting when darkness returns. Within this simple rhythm, the mind often drifts softly, noticing without effort. Happiness, when it appears, does not stay long. It arrives quietly, like a faint warmth in cool air, a calm breath, a simple task completed, a moment without worry. These small experiences, though brief, leave a gentle trace, shaping life in subtle ways. The village is now fully awake, though never hurried. Soft voices move through the air, footsteps cross familiar ground, smoke rises gently from chimneys. Another ordinary day begins, steady and patient. And within that steady beginning, the quiet and subtle presence of happiness continues, calm and unseen, resting gently inside the flow of medieval life. The day moves onward with a calm and steady pace. The sun rests gently above the fields, spreading a quiet warmth across soil and stone. Nothing feels rushed. Nothing calls for urgency. Life continues in familiar patterns, soft and unchanging, as if the world prefers this slow and patient rhythm. Within that rhythm, small and quiet forms of contentment continue to appear, often unnoticed, yet quietly real. In the Middle Ages, the middle hours of the day carried a sense of quiet persistence. Work did not stop, yet it did not feel hurried. A farmer guides a simple wooden tool across the earth, the motion steady and measured. The soil turns slowly, dark and cool beneath the surface. This work, repeated day after day, carried no excitement, yet it offered structure. And structure, steady and predictable, often brought a quiet sense of balance. Nearby, a woman tends a small garden, moving carefully among green leaves and soft earth. She pauses sometimes, not from weariness, but from gentle attention. The sound of wind moving lightly through plants creates a calm and steady presence. Nothing dramatic unfolds, yet the quiet care of growing things often carried a soft and subtle satisfaction, something close to peace. Happiness, for many, was tied to small signs of stability. A crop growing steadily, a roof that remained strong, a day without illness or trouble. These modest conditions did not promise joy, but they allowed life to continue gently. And in that gentle continuation, calm contentment could exist. When the world feels uncertain, even small balance feels meaningful. At the center of the village, the quiet rhythm of daily exchange continues. A basket is placed upon a wooden table. Cloth is folded with slow and careful hands. Voices remain soft, almost blending into the warm air. The marketplace does not rush. It moves gently, like the slow passing of time itself. Within this familiar motion, people often felt a subtle reassurance, a feeling that life continued as it should. The midday meal returns once more, simple and steady. Bread is shared. A pot warms quietly over a small fire. Hunger eases, and the body grows calm. When the body rests, even briefly, the mind often softens as well. These small moments of ease, scattered gently through the day, offered brief but meaningful comfort. Faith continues to move quietly alongside daily life. A distant bell, a silent prayer, a moment of stillness before returning to work. For many, happiness was not fully tied to this world, but to something steady beyond it. This belief did not remove hardship, yet it softened uncertainty, allowing people to rest within a gentle sense of trust. Nature remains calm and steady. A pale cloud drifts slowly across the sky. The soft hum of insects rises from warm grass. Sunlight rests quietly on stone walls and worn paths. These simple details require nothing, yet they shape the quiet atmosphere of the day. And within that atmosphere, the mind sometimes finds a place to settle. Happiness, when it appears, remains subtle. It does not announce itself. It arrives quietly, often hidden within ordinary calm, a moment of rest beneath shade. The simple feeling that nothing is wrong, at least for now. These small spaces of peace, though brief, shape life in quiet and lasting ways. Yet not every moment feels calm. There are small worries, quiet uncertainties, thoughts that move gently beneath the surface. Crops may fail, illness may come, winters may grow long. Still, life continues. People work, share, rest, and move forward together. Within this steady continuation, even fragile calm can feel meaningful. As the afternoon slowly begins to soften, light grows warmer, shadows stretch gently across the land, and movement becomes slower, more measured. The village remains steady, unchanged in its quiet rhythm. And within that steady rhythm, the subtle presence of happiness continues to drift. Calm and patient, woven softly into the simple flow of medieval life. Evening approaches once again. Gently and without announcement, the warmth of the afternoon begins to fade, and the air grows softer, cooler, more still. Across the fields, Long shadows stretch quietly over the earth, touching stone walls and narrow paths that have known countless footsteps. The village begins its slow return toward rest, not hurried, not forced, simply following the calm rhythm of another ordinary day coming to a close. A farmer walks home with steady and unhurried steps, the ground familiar beneath worn shoes. The work of the day is finished, at least for now. There is no grand sense of achievement, only a quiet awareness that effort has ended and rest will soon begin. In this simple transition, many in the Middle Ages felt a gentle easing of the mind, a soft space where worry loosened its hold. Inside small homes, firelight slowly returns. A flame catches, flickers, and grows into a steady glow. Warm light touches rough wooden walls, moving softly with each quiet breath of air. The sound of burning wood is calm and steady, filling the room with a gentle presence. Nothing remarkable happens, yet the warmth itself offers comfort, something simple and deeply familiar. The evening meal is shared quietly. Bread is passed from hand to hand. A bowl rests in the center of a worn table. Movements are slow, soft, and unhurried. Words, if spoken, are few and gentle. Silence follows, easily peaceful and natural. In this shared stillness, people often felt a quiet sense of belonging, and belonging, even without words, could feel like happiness. Outside, the village grows quieter with each passing moment. Animals settle in their stalls. A distant sound fades into the night air. The wind moves gently through trees, carrying the faint rustle of leaves. These small sounds do not disturb the calm. They belong to the evening, shaping a quiet and steady atmosphere that feels safe and familiar. Happiness, in these moments, is subtle and soft. The warmth of fire against cool night air, the comfort of sitting after long labor, the quiet presence of others nearby, steady and known. These are not loud emotions, not bright celebrations, but gentle conditions where the heart can rest without fear. Faith often returns softly as darkness deepens, a whispered prayer before sleep, a quiet moment of reflection. Many believed lasting happiness lay beyond this life, somewhere calm and steady, waiting patiently. This belief did not remove hardship, but it offered reassurance, allowing the mind to settle within a gentle sense of trust. Seasons continue their slow and patient turning. In autumn, cool air carries the scent of dry leaves. In winter, darkness arrives early, wrapping the village in deep stillness. In summer, soft warmth lingers long after sunset. Each season shapes the evening in subtle ways, and within these familiar patterns, people find quiet comfort. Sometimes happiness appears in the smallest details, a candle burning steadily, the gentle weight of a cloak wrapped against cool air, the soft glow of moonlight touching a silent path. These simple things, though easily overlooked, form part of the calm rhythm of life, offering brief yet meaningful peace. As night deepens, movement fades almost completely. Doors close, voices disappear. Only the soft crackle of fire and the steady rhythm of breathing remain inside quiet homes. The world grows still, not empty, but resting. And within this stillness, many feel a fragile yet real sense of safety. A calm pause in the flow of uncertain days. Life in the Middle Ages does not promise constant happiness. Instead, It offers gentle moments of calm, scattered softly through ordinary days and quiet nights. Happiness is not something to chase, but something to notice when it quietly appears, and to remember without urgency when it fades. The village sleeps beneath a wide and silent sky. Nothing demands attention. Nothing needs to be solved. Time continues its slow and patient journey, carrying with it countless small lives moving gently forward. And within that steady flow, the soft and subtle presence of happiness drifts quietly onward, calm and peaceful, into another silent night. A quiet mist rests lightly over the land as another morning slowly begins. The sky is pale and calm, holding the soft colors of early light. Nothing feels hurried. Nothing calls for attention. The village remains still for a few gentle moments, as if the world itself is waking slowly and without effort. In this quiet beginning, life prepares to continue once more, steady and familiar, just as it has for countless days before. A faint sound of movement comes from a small home where a door opens softly. Cool air enters, carrying the quiet scent of earth and distant fields. Someone steps outside, pausing briefly, not from hesitation, but from habit. The ground beneath feels known, shaped by years of walking the same narrow path. For many in the Middle Ages, this simple familiarity offered comfort, a calm sense that life, though uncertain, remained gently balanced. Light slowly spreads across rooftops and fields, touching stone, wood, and soil with quiet warmth. A thin line of smoke begins to rise from a chimney, moving upward into the still morning air. These small signs of waking do not feel dramatic. They feel natural, expected, part of a rhythm repeated again and again. Within this repetition, people often found quiet reassurance, subtle yet steady. Happiness, for many, was shaped by small certainties. The certainty that morning would return, the certainty that the land would still be there beneath their feet, the certainty that familiar faces would appear once more in the quiet flow of the day. These modest assurances did not promise joy, yet they offered calm. And calm often stood close to happiness. Near the well, the sound of rope moving gently through hands breaks the silence. Water rises slowly, clear and steady, just as it has for years beyond memory. The act is simple, repeated countless times, yet it carries quiet importance. In such dependable motions, the mind often finds a gentle sense of stability, something small yet grounding. Across the fields, a farmer begins the slow work of the morning. The soil is cool and slightly damp beneath careful steps. Hands move with memory rather than thought. The work does not promise excitement, but it offers rhythm, and rhythm, steady and unchanging, often brings a quiet sense of peace. In the steady turning of earth, the mind sometimes grows calm, and within that calm, a subtle contentment may appear. Children move slowly into the morning light, their voices soft and unhurried. They notice small details, simple things that fill the world with gentle presence. A bird resting quietly on a wooden fence, the faint reflection of sky in a shallow puddle, the slow drifting of smoke rising into the air. These quiet observations do not shape history, yet they shape the calm texture of daily life. Faith remains a quiet companion, steady and present. A distant bell moves softly through the morning, marking time without urgency. Some pause, some continue their tasks, yet the sound belongs to everyone. For many, it offers reassurance, a reminder that life moves within a steady and patient order, even when the path ahead feels uncertain. Time continues its slow movement. Light grows stronger. Shadows retreat gently. The sun rises higher, calm, and steady as it always has. People follow this natural rhythm, working when light allows, resting when darkness returns. Within this simple flow, the mind often drifts softly, noticing without effort, settling without force. Happiness, when it appears, is quiet and brief. It does not announce itself. It arrives softly, like a faint warmth in cool air, a calm breath. A simple task completed, a moment without worry. These small experiences, though fleeting, leave a gentle trace, shaping life in subtle and lasting ways. The village slowly awakens, though never hurried. Soft voices move through the air. Footsteps cross familiar ground. Smoke rises gently into the pale sky. Another ordinary day begins, steady and patient. And within that steady beginning, the quiet and subtle presence of happiness continues. Calm and unseen, resting gently within the flow of medieval life. The day continues without hurry, carried gently by the quiet movement of light across fields and stone. The sun rises higher, resting calmly above the village, warming rooftops and narrow paths. Nothing feels rushed. Nothing demands attention. Life unfolds slowly, as it always has, shaped by steady repetition and familiar motion. Within this gentle flow, small and quiet forms of contentment continue to appear, soft and often unnoticed. Work moves forward in calm and patient rhythm. A farmer walks along the edge of a field, guiding simple tools through the earth. The soil turns slowly beneath steady hands. There is no sudden change, no dramatic moment, only the quiet continuation of effort. In such repetition, the body grows accustomed, and the mind sometimes settles into a gentle calm. This calm, though simple, often felt close to happiness. Nearby, in a small garden, careful hands move among leaves and stems. A plant is adjusted, soil pressed gently into place. The work is slow, almost silent, guided by habit rather than urgency. Nothing remarkable occurs, yet the quiet act of tending growing life carries a subtle satisfaction, something soft and grounding. Happiness, for many, was connected to small signs of balance. A day without illness. A crop growing steadily beneath patient care. A roof that remained strong through wind and rain. These were modest conditions, yet they allowed life to continue gently. And when life moved without disruption, the heart often rested in quiet contentment. At the center of the village, the marketplace follows its slow and steady rhythm. A basket rests on a wooden table. Cloth is folded carefully, each movement calm and deliberate. Voices remain low, blending softly into warm air. Coins pass from hand to hand without haste. Nothing dramatic unfolds, yet life continues in its familiar pattern, steady and reassuring. The midday meal returns once more, simple and unhurried. Bread is shared. A small pot warms slowly over a quiet flame. Hunger eases, and with it, a gentle calm spreads through the body. When the body rests, even briefly, the mind often softens. These small pauses, scattered gently through the day, offered moments of quiet comfort. Faith continues to move quietly alongside daily life. A distant bell sounds softly. A silent prayer passes through the mind. A brief moment of stillness appears before work begins again. For many, happiness was not fully tied to this world, but connected to something steady beyond it. This belief did not remove hardship, yet it softened uncertainty, allowing the heart to rest within quiet trust. Nature moves gently alongside human life. Clouds drift slowly across a pale sky. The soft hum of insects rises from warm grass. Sunlight rests quietly on stone walls and worn paths. These simple details shape the calm atmosphere of the day. And within that atmosphere, the mind sometimes finds a place to settle. Happiness, when it appears, remains subtle. It does not arrive loudly. It comes quietly, often hidden within ordinary calm. A moment of rest beneath gentle shade. The simple feeling that nothing is wrong, at least for now. These small spaces of peace, though brief, shape life in quiet and lasting ways. Not every moment feels calm. There are small worries, quiet uncertainties, thoughts that move slowly beneath the surface. Crops may fail. Illness may come. Winters may grow long. Yet life continues. People work, share, rest, and move forward together. Within this steady continuation, even fragile calm can feel meaningful. As the afternoon begins its slow turn toward evening, the light grows warmer, softer, more gentle. Shadows stretch quietly across the ground. Movement becomes slower, more measured. The village remains steady, unchanged in its calm rhythm. And within that steady rhythm, the quiet presence of happiness continues to drift, subtle and patient, woven softly into the simple flow of medieval life. Evening returns softly, as if the day itself is learning how to rest once more. The light fades slowly across the fields and rooftops, turning warm and gentle before drifting quietly into dusk. The village begins its familiar movement towards stillness. Tools are set aside. Doors open and close with soft and known sounds. Nothing feels hurried. The world simply settles, steady and calm, into another quiet ending. A narrow path carries slow footsteps back toward small homes. The ground feels familiar, shaped by years of quiet walking. There is comfort in knowing the way without needing to think. For many in the Middle Ages, happiness often rested within such quiet certainty, small and unnoticed, yet deeply present in the rhythm of daily life. Inside, a small fire begins to glow once more. The first sparks catch gently, growing into a steady warmth that fills the room. Light flickers against rough wooden walls, moving softly like a calm breath. Someone sits nearby, hands resting, eyes quiet. Nothing dramatic unfolds. Yet the simple warmth of fire against cool evening air offers a quiet sense of ease. Something close to peace. The evening meal is shared slowly and without urgency. Bread is passed from hand to hand. A wooden bowl rests at the center of a worn table. Movements remain soft and unhurried. Words, if spoken, are few and gentle. Silence returns easily, peaceful and natural. In this shared stillness, people often feel a quiet sense of belonging. And belonging, even without sound, can feel like happiness. Outside, the village grows quieter with each passing moment. Animals settle into calm rest. A distant sound fades gently into the night air. The wind moves softly through trees, carrying the faint rustle of leaves. These small sounds do not disturb the stillness. They belong to the evening, shaping a calm and familiar atmosphere that feels steady and safe. Happiness, in such moments, remains subtle and soft. The warmth of fire against cool night air, the comfort of resting after long work, the quiet presence of others nearby, steady and known. These are not loud emotions or bright celebrations, but gentle conditions where the heart can rest without strain. Faith often returns quietly as darkness deepens, a whispered prayer before sleep, a calm moment of reflection. Many believe lasting happiness lies beyond this life, somewhere peaceful and steady, waiting patiently. This belief does not remove hardship, yet it offers reassurance, allowing the mind to settle within quiet trust. The seasons continue their slow and patient turning. In autumn, cool air carries the faint scent of dry leaves. In winter, darkness arrives early, wrapping the village in deep stillness. In summer, gentle warmth lingers long after sunset. Each season shapes the evening in subtle ways, and within these familiar patterns, people find quiet comfort, steady and grounding. Sometimes happiness appears in the smallest details, a candle burning steadily without flicker, the gentle weight of a wool cloak wrapped against cool air, the faint glow of moonlight touching a silent path. These simple moments, though easily overlooked, form part of the calm rhythm of life, offering brief yet meaningful peace. As night deepens, movement fades almost completely. Doors close, voices disappear. Only the soft crackle of fire and the steady rhythm of breathing remain inside quiet homes. The world grows still, not empty, but resting. And within this deep quiet, many feel a fragile yet real sense of safety. A calm pause in the flow of uncertain days. Life in the Middle Ages does not promise constant happiness. Instead, it offers gentle moments of calm, scattered softly through ordinary days and quiet nights. Happiness is not something to chase, but something to notice quietly when it appears, and to remember gently when it fades. The village sleeps beneath a wide and silent sky. Nothing demands attention. Nothing needs to be solved. Time continues its slow and patient journey, carrying countless small lives forward, and within that steady flow, the soft and subtle presence of happiness drifts quietly onward, calm and peaceful, into another silent night.